Okay, so today I'm going to be chatting with one of the greatest and most renowned trading psychologists in the world, Dr. Brett Steenbarger, about what his research shows are the 5 common characteristics and behaviors of the world's most talented traders. Dr. Steenbarger has worked with traders employed by the world's largest hedge funds, so he's in a unique position to understand and research these issues. And in this video, he's going to be presenting the findings of his research. If you have a sincere desire to become an elite trader and truly want to know what it's going to take for you to become great, then you're going to want to watch this video because it's based on research about the top tier of elite traders in the world. Hi, I'm Seth Freuberg, and I'm the head trader of SMB Capital's Options Trading Desk. SMB Capital is a proprietary trading firm located in Midtown Manhattan, and we provide capital for options and equity traders from all over the world, trading both remotely and in our offices here in New York City. Now, I'd like to suggest that you click on our subscribe button right now so that you don't miss any of our free trading videos that we produce for traders and investors all over the world. They're really very valuable. Okay, so as I promised, I've got Dr. Brett Steenbarger with me here today in our offices here at SMB Capital in Midtown Manhattan. I know Brett pretty well as we've been working together for years now, as SMB has provided our traders, including myself, with the unique opportunity to counsel with Brett, or as we call him here at SMB, Dr. S. So a few years back, Brett undertook to perform some research about what are the common traits of the world's greatest traders, and he identified 6 characteristics that I'm not sure would have been intuitively obvious at the outset. So welcome, Brett, and thanks for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having me, Seth.
All right, so Brett, first off, why exactly did you decide to do this research in the first place, and what was the methodology that you used to gather your data?
Yeah, so the research has been conducted at a number of different firms with portfolio managers and traders trading various strategies. One of the reasons for collecting the information was to help the different firms with their hiring process, so that if we know that certain characteristics are associated with success, we can look for those characteristics when we're trying to hire new traders or new PMs.
I see.
A second reason is to identify the strengths that accompany success so that we can build that into coaching and build the strengths of the traders we work with.
That's really interesting. And so it had a sort of an impact on both the hiring process as well as the internal training process of these companies.
That's right, the internal development processes of the companies, and it certainly has informed my coaching. In the research, we've looked at 3 groups of variables. The first are personality traits, and there are standardized questionnaires that measure that. The second are cognitive traits, which means how we process information. And the third are biographical variables. So are there early life experiences that may be predictive of later life success in financial markets?
Okay, so let's jump into each of the 6 characteristics that you found in common with the world's greatest traders. Now, the first one you found was that all great traders have a capacity for sustained focus. Now, that's an interesting one that I don't think I would have at all intuitively guessed. Can you tell us more about what you learned about the importance of this trait to great trader success, and maybe an example or two of what exactly you mean by this trait?
Yes, and it really means 2 different things, Seth. What we found cognitively was that great traders are either greatly fast thinkers or greatly deep thinkers. And it's a little bit like Daniel Kahneman's idea of thinking fast and slow, the book that he wrote on that topic. And to think fast means rapid pattern recognition. It means looking at things broadly and seeing many different things at one time and seeing the pattern to those. Thinking deeply means that you're gathering a great deal of information, doing a great deal of research, and understanding something in more depth than the average market participant. Both of those require sustained concentration. They are different cognitive functions, thinking fast and thinking deeply, but both require that we sustain attention to find the patterns and to dig in research to generate conclusions.
Now, the two categories, the fast thinkers and the deep thinkers, are they mutually exclusive, or do some people possess both deep and fast thinking?
There are people with strengths in both areas. I would say it's the exception, and usually a person is stronger at one than the other. But there are, for instance, portfolio managers who think deeply and generate big picture ideas, but then can trade those on shorter time frames based on flows within trading instruments.
But have you found, generally speaking, the ambidextrous people are fewer and farther between, and people tend to very strongly follow one trade or another if they're a successful trader, either be a fast thinker or a deep thinker?
In general, people are either what I would call traders or investors. And that's really part and parcel of the faster thinking and the deeper thinking. And again, there can be elements of both, but usually in terms of strength, one is distinctively strong. The important point here is that the very successful market participant is either distinctively strong as a fast thinker or distinctively strong as a deep thinker. They're not average in both. They show some area of distinctive strength.
I see. Very, very interesting. So for this particular trait, it can come from two different places, but nonetheless have to be distinctive and powerful.
Yes, that ideally we see something in the person's history. Let's say we're hiring someone who is a relatively junior professional, so they don't have a huge track record in financial markets. How could we possibly know if they have these strengths? Well, we look to their earlier life successes. For example, as you know, here at SMB, there are a couple of traders who are very successful in their short-term trading, who before coming to markets were very successful at playing competitive video games. And so the fast thinking and fast response time of the video games in part reflect a strength that they're able to bring to their short-term trading.
That is really interesting. You almost might think companies should give as part of their hiring process video games for people to trade.
If that were the style of their trading, then in fact you probably could give some cognitive tests for pattern recognition, fast visual recognition, that would give you some useful information about people's competencies.
That would be out of the box, but very interesting.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Brett, so let's jump into the second quality that you identified among all great traders, and that is originality and creativity. It's an interesting one. I'd really like you to share, if you can, some examples of the originality that you've seen exemplified by great traders and exactly why you think it may be so critical to success. In other words, what about this quality lends itself to great trading success?
Okay, yeah, it's very, very important. If you look at the same things as other traders, you'll tend to do the same things as other traders, and you'll tend to get the same results as other traders. It's hard to have distinctive results when you're not doing anything distinctive in a process sense. And what we find with very successful portfolio managers, very successful traders, is that they are either looking at different information than others, or they're looking at the same information differently. And so there's a uniqueness to their perception, there's a uniqueness to their research. They're not playing the same game as other consensus traders. And that is a big part of their success. And in fact, a big part of their longevity is that they are able to find new sources of unique edge in their trading that others don't participate in. So an example of this kind of uniqueness, there was a firm that I came across that they had access to the information from satellites in the atmosphere. And the satellites could recognize different ships on the oceans and in ports, and could recognize what types of ships those were, and could download that information so that at any time you had real-time information about how many ships were actively shipping, how many were stuck in port, how many were oil tankers, how many were cargo ships of another type. And they could actually forecast economic activity based on the shipping activity. Wow. That was, unique data, and clearly looking at something other people weren't. That's a dramatic example of someone doing something unique. There was a portfolio manager who I had worked with who hired a number of young kids, college kids, and they would make phone call after phone call after phone call to find out about hotel rates, to find out about airplane fares, to find out about train fares and all that. So they're looking at everything related to travel and so forth, hotel rates, and for different time frames. And out of that, all that information, he was able to build a model for demand and supply for discretionary spending. And so if he's seeing that airfares are really firm, and car rental prices are really firm, and hotel prices are really firm, 6 months into the future, much firmer than usual, he would conclude that there's a high level of discretionary spending, and that informed his trading decisions about which stocks to buy and sell. Wow. It's playing a different game. It's not just looking at the same old charts as everyone else.
Right, and your idea reminds me of Peter Lynch, who wrote books about how the typical retail trader can actually have an advantage over a professional trader. And he talks about things like if you live in a company town and the parking lot's more filled than usual, you may want to go and get long the stock of that company. And that's the kind of thing that you're sitting in your ivory tower in your office you would never necessarily even think of, yet might very well be predictive of a bump in the stock price.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So it's creative thinking.
Creative thinking, right. Gathering new data, putting it together in new ways. That ends up being extremely important to finding unique sources of advantage in markets.
And if you think about it logically, what you're really saying is they're finding trades that aren't crowded because no one's thought of them.
Yes,
right?
Yes. So, and it's true throughout the business world. So, am I going to succeed if I open up a hamburger stand right next to McDonald's and Burger King? I don't think so. However, if I develop a hamburger, in quotes, that is based on vegetable protein, that becomes a very successful company. Right. It's unique, it's creative. It's throughout the business world, that's what we see succeed, and it's true in the trading world as well.
Fantastic. All right. Now, the third quality that you picked up on is that the world's greatest traders have all been willing to and have in fact learned from mentors and other great traders. That's really very interesting because some people might think that the world's greatest traders are cocky, brilliant guys who were just born that way and didn't have to be humble and accept that someone else may actually know a little bit more than they do. But apparently that's not the case, is it, Dr. S? So why then is having worked with a mentor, or as you have said in some cases, multiple members, so consistently present in great traders? I mean, are there any guys who just become great without having worked with anyone at all?
What we see in every performance field is that mentoring is the dominant path to success. Wow. So let's think about someone who becomes an Olympic professional. Are they really going to train and work out at home by themselves and suddenly enter the Olympics? I don't think so. Let's talk about chess champions. How do they learn? How do they grow? Will they belong to chess clubs and they receive mentoring from chess masters and grandmasters? Look at the development of artists in art studios. Do they just start painting by themselves with no external input? No, they learn from the masters. So it's across fields. As you know, I teach in a medical school. And in medicine, what do? You take courses, but you follow different physicians, you observe what they do, you learn what they do, you do different rotations, and so you have many mentors who show you firsthand the how-tos. If you don't have the background yourself, you can't suddenly come up with the how-tos yourself. Can I sit at home, read books, and become a skilled surgeon? No way. It's the same thing with trading. You need the example of the successful trader to learn from and learn with, and that's why the development rate, the percentage of successful development cases is so much higher at hedge funds where the junior people are right on the desk learning with the portfolio manager than in independent trading where people are trying to learn on their own at home.
It's the old master-apprentice concept, right?
Absolutely.
The same principles at play, whether
Absolutely.
It's blacksmithing or trading.
Blacksmithing or trading, if I want to be a skilled plumber, I'm not going to just on my own start hacking away with tools on my own sink.
Right.
No.
Yeah. I always tell people, you're not going to become a great golfer by reading books on golf, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Or just by going out to a golf course by yourself and swinging away. We need instruction. We're not born with those skills, and skill development is a process itself that needs to be structured and modeled by someone knowledgeable.
It's interesting. What this brings to mind, when I first started trading options, I was a member of an options trading community, and I got a tremendous amount out, not from my main mentor, but more so from the other guys in the community who were clearly advanced traders. Right. And I formed relationships with these people, and we worked together, and it was effectively a mentoring process going on, even though I'm not sure I would have called it that at that point.
But it's role modeling, right. It's mutual learning. You're learning from the mistakes and successes of others, and it just accelerates your learning curve. We see this consistently in the trading world.
So interesting. Well, before we learn about the final 3 traits that Brett identified in his research, I wanted to mention that we're currently running a 2-hour free intensive workshop at the moment where we'll be teaching 3 real-world option strategies that professional options traders use, including a really simple but incredibly effective strategy that some of the greatest investors in the world, like Warren Buffett, use all the time, plus an options trading strategy that has an 80% statistical probability of profit month in and month out, plus an option strategy that you can employ with a stock that you like, where you'll make your target profit whether the stock goes up, goes nowhere, or even goes down a small percentage. So if those strategies would be of interest to you, then you should check out the free options class that we're currently running. So just go ahead and click the link that should be appearing now at the top right corner of your screen. That will open the free registration page in a new window, so don't worry, you won't lose this video. Or you can just head on over to optionsclass.com to register for this free intensive workshop. It's a rare opportunity for retail traders and investors to learn directly from Wall Street traders, but that's exactly what you'll be getting through this free online workshop. So click the link to sign up now and don't miss it. Okay, so now Dr. S, the 4th quality that was consistent among all great traders was what you called emotional resilience. Now, I'm a huge pro football fan, and I know that if you play cornerback and a receiver beats you badly for a big gain, they say the great cornerbacks are able to just erase their memory of the play and get back and do a great job defending the next pass that comes his way. Is there a similar analogy in trading? Is that what you mean, or is it more nuanced than that?
It's a little more nuanced than that, Seth, because you're not erasing the memory of it. You want to remember, let's say, a bad trade, a trade that goes wrong. You want to remember it because you want to learn from it. Right. And what gives you the resilience is that you're treating losses as learning experiences. In that sense, you're embracing the losses. Now that, of course, presumes reasonable risk management, okay? But if you are making a good bet, betting this amount to make this amount, and it goes wrong, you can try to identify what might I have done differently, what did I miss? And so now the loss is not so threatening. It's there to make you better. Resilience helps us traverse our learning curves. We're going to make mistakes, and even the best traders are often wrong close to 50% of the time. We want to use losses to make us better, not to tear us down.
I see. So that emotional resilience is, it sounds to me like a critical element of success. I mean, I know traders who probably could have been very successful, but they just could not handle losses. And right. They would get so overly depressed, they'd bail out, come back to trading a few months later, experience some success, have another serious loss, bail out again, and there was no consistency to their trading. Those periods where they had bailed out, they could easily have been successful, right. But they never gave themselves that opportunity because of the lack of emotional resilience.
Yes, it is very difficult for someone who has succeeded consistently in other areas of their life to enter a performance arena where you're going to be wrong 50% or more of the time. So in college and school, I had a grade point average where all my grades were A's or B's. And that's what allowed me to get to graduate school and be successful academically. So I never had a quote unquote failure. In trading, I have many failures. There are many losing trades. And if you can't accept it and use it constructively, it can really tear you down.
It's incredible. And so now the fifth trait that you identified in your research was attention to detail. Now, that's one of those blocking and tackling traits, as you've said, that may not be the most fascinating quality that you picked up on in your research, but apparently you nonetheless identified this as a common trait that all great traders had. So how does this trait of attention to detail manifest exactly in great traders, and why do you think that it's so critically important?
When we look at the results of traders, their profitability, it turns out that only a modest fraction of the success comes from the actual ideas that they're trading. The ideas are important, but they're not all important. Once you have the idea, you still have to structure that idea as a good risk-reward proposition to turn it into a trade. And that's a very detailed area of exploration. So if I have an idea that the global economy is growing, that there's going to be economic expansion overseas, that will carry over to certain international companies in the US, great, that's a worthwhile idea, but where do I buy? Where would I sell? How would I structure that trade? Would I think about using options and limiting the amount of premium that I dedicate to the idea? Might I structure it as a spread trade or a relative value trade? I'll buy this industry and sell another industry against it. There's so many different ways of structuring an idea, so many different ways of timing and sizing an idea. Those are the mechanics of trading, and they account for a surprisingly large degree of success or failure of traders.
It reminds me of the expression that success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, right? Is it something along those lines?
Exactly, exactly. And so you can come up with a brilliant idea for the design of an automobile, and that's great. But if you don't have the detail work to create an efficient engine and to create a beautiful interior that's well constructed, then that car is not going to be a commercial success.
Very interesting. So there are just some basic fundamental human character issues which come into success as trading. If you don't have the attention span and the discipline to pay attention to details, you're not going to be successful.
That's right. And the detail orientation is part of what is mentored in good learning processes.
Wow, that's interesting. So that's how, in a sense, a couple different traits sort of interact with each other.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right, these are not necessarily mutually exclusive. And finally, the sixth trait that you notice that all great traders have is that they're always working to improve their game. Now, having been at SMB for many years, I can't say I'm surprised that this is on the list of common traits. That's culturally what we're about here, but I'm definitely very curious about exactly what you mean by this. How does this manifest exactly? What are some examples of how great traders work on improving themselves? What exactly do they do to improve?
Well, the basic reality, as you know, Seth, is that markets are ever changing. We go through periods where markets are trending and periods where they are range bound, where they are more volatile, less volatile. In some markets, we see correlations among assets. In other markets, those break down. And so any one approach to trading tends to have a shelf life in terms of its quote-unquote edge. And so to have a successful career as a portfolio manager, an investor, as a trader, you need to be evolving with markets. You need to be finding ever new sources of edge. And so there's always research and development going on. Sometimes beginning traders hope that they find a holy grail. They look for what they call quote-unquote setups that are chart patterns that will lead them to success if they're implemented. Well, obviously, if that was the case, there are plenty of algorithmic participants who could automate that trade and profit from it continuously. But in fact, that doesn't happen, and that's not what algorithmic traders do. The advantage we would find in one market, let's say a breakout pattern, won't work in a different kind of market. And so we always need to be adapting to market conditions, and that takes an unusual amount of open-mindedness and flexibility.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's a person who doesn't get too attached to any one discipline, but has a sort of fluidity to be able to move into other disciplines to continue to succeed in the market.
Yes, and again, we see this in the business world. So right now, a particular product may be popular, but consumer tastes change, technology change. So at one time, flip phones were the rage. And then all of a sudden we have these smartphones and no one wants a flip phone. We have to adapt to new technology, we adapt to new markets, and that's what makes for ongoing success.
I took a marketing course in college, and now that's way back when at this point, our professor taught us that Procter & Gamble, which at that time was one of the most successful companies in the world, may still be, had a principle that you must routinize innovation.
Yes.
That was how they stayed ahead, by routinizing innovation within their corporate culture. It sounds like that works at the trader level as well.
Yes, that the ones who have successful careers are always engaged in research and development, just like successful companies.
So the individual traders routinize innovation would be another way of putting it. Now, Brett, before we go, I'm guessing that most of you out there watching this video are thinking, well, there are a few of these qualities that I just don't possess. Are some of these traits simply genetic, and if you don't have them at birth, you're doomed to failure as a trader? Or are all of them traits that can be learned and built within oneself? I'm hoping for some good news here, Brett.
Okay. Well, there are important capacities that are inborn that we see in developmental research. And so people tend to have, as a result of their heredity, their constitution, higher degrees of capacity for focus. They may have higher intelligence, and those can be relevant to success in financial markets. What is most important is for each person to identify what are their particular strengths, cognitively, in terms of personality, and how can they leverage those strengths vis-a-vis strategies in financial markets.
I see.
I do think there are people who have a high level of distractibility and a low level of frustration tolerance, who are going to be, and who may have mood problems. They're going to be challenged to be successful in financial markets in ways that other people won't. And so heredity is relevant here. But within the traits and characteristics that we're born with, where are our strengths and how can we develop those as fully as possible and apply them to strategies and markets that speak to those strengths?
So that's telling me that someone may have a weakness in one or more of the traits that were mentioned today, but still be able to be successful if they learn how to strengthen and grow those areas where they may naturally have strength.
Yes, so they can adapt their trading in such a way. So if they are not, let's say, a fast thinker, they could still be a successful investor.
I see.
Okay,
Right.
So it depends on the patterning of strengths that people have. Many times traders fail because they're not playing to their strengths. Again, they're not playing the right game, so to speak. So someone who is very talented, let's say as a weightlifter, if they tried to succeed as a baseball player or as a ballet dancer, they would feel like a miserable failure.
Right, understood. So really great. And Brett, I know that you're an extremely busy guy and in great demand, and so on behalf of all of our viewers, I'd really like to thank you for spending the time with us today to share your research on this really interesting topic. It was very valuable.
Thank you very much, Seth.
Okay, so now you've heard the research, and I hope that this video will inspire you to do the things you need to do to become not just good, but great as you develop and work on your craft as a trader. You've got to take this process seriously because like anything else in life, you'll get out of it what you put into it. To qualify as a trader for a top-tier proprietary trading firm like SMB, you're going to need to work on all of these skills and traits, and I hope that you'll do just that and stay in touch with us throughout your journey. Now, just to remind you, as I said earlier, if you enjoyed this video and learned something valuable from it and would like to learn the 3 real-world option strategies that professional options traders use all the time, then you should check out the free options class that we're currently running. Just go ahead and click the link that should be appearing now at the top right corner of your screen. That will open the free registration page in a new window, so you won't lose this video, don't worry. Or you could just head on over to optionsclass.com to register for this free intensive workshop. It's really a rare opportunity for retail traders and investors to learn directly from Wall Street traders, but that's exactly what you'll be getting through this free online workshop. So click the link to sign up now and don't miss it. When you watch this video, because you're human, I'll bet you admittedly started to think about how you stack up against these 6 traits that are common to all successful traders. So what I'd like you to do is to comment below about which of the traits you think you have and which ones you need to work on. Do that right now, and I'll try to make some comments in reply to you to give some suggestions on how you might go about working on those areas that you need to improve on to become elite. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with.